Alright, so welcome to part 2. So number 3, we want to know, is this a function? And I'm asking you to explain a little bit. So this one, you can see right here, this fails the vertical line test. So this would be nope. This is not a function. And for y, you could just say fails vertical line test. Alright, so nothing too crazy there. Now, is this next one a function? No, it is not. Okay, now it says y show counterexample. So what the heck does that mean? So what that means is it wants me to show that if I plug in one value for x, that there's a possibility of two output values that correspond with that. Okay, so I'm going to say let x equal, I don't know, let's keep it simple. Let x equal 0. Okay, so if we let x equal 0, I'm going to plug in 0 for x. 0 squared is 0. So I'll show this even though it's kind of repetitive. So 0 plus y squared equals 9. So how am I going to solve for y? Well, I'm going to take the square root. And like I mentioned earlier, if I'm the one taking the square root, then I have to add in the plus or minus. Oops, that's not true. Plus or minus the square root of 9. So I'm the one that took the square root. So I have to add the plus or minus. So this means that the point 0, 3 exists, and 0, negative 3 exists, which tells me that this is not a function because when my input is 0, I have two possible outputs for that value. So this is not a function. Okay, so that would be a counterexample, is by showing that the input of 0 gives me two separate outputs. Okay? Alright, let's keep on rolling. So, this is some composition of function stuff to start with. So find f of g of 3. So to do this, I'm going to start by plugging in 3 into my g function. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So then I'm going to find f of negative 1. So I get the square root of negative 1. And so this is, I'm going to say, a non-real answer is what I'll say. Okay, I'm not so worried about you guys finding the imaginary values. Technically, this would be equal to I, but I'm not really so worried about that. Right now, we're just saying this is a non-real value, and then that's it. That's good enough. All right, now, g of 4, what am I supposed to do here? So I'm going to plug in 4 into the g function. So that'd be negative 4 plus 2 is negative 2. So then I'm going to find g of negative 2. So I'll plug negative 2 back into the same g function. So negative 2 is 2. 2 plus 2 is 4. So g of 4 is equal to 4. All right, part C wants to know g of f of x. So I'm going to take in this entire square root function and plug it into the g function. So this is going to be equal to negative square root of x plus 2. And that's good. I'm just going to leave it like that. Don't need anything else. All right, now this last one, there's a couple of different ways that we could find this. So g inverse of f of 9. So let's start with just figuring out what is f of 9. So f of 9, I'm going to plug 9 into the f function. Square root of 9 is 3. So that means that really I'm looking for g inverse of 3. Now, we talked about this up on page 1. There's two ways that we could find this. First way we could find this is we could find an equation for g inverse. We could do a little variable interchange, switch the x and the y, solve for y. Then we have a function for g inverse, and then we could plug 3 into our g inverse function. Okay, but that's kind of a lot of work. There's got to be a quicker way, and there is. But you have to kind of understand something about inverse functions. So what does this 3 represent? This 3 represents an output of the g function. That's what it represents. It represents an output of the g function. So if I want to find g inverse of 3, well, 3 is the output of g. So I can just plug that in for the output and set it equal to my equation. So 3 equals negative x plus 2. and then just solve for x. So subtract 2 from both sides, that'd be 1. So 1 equals negative x, which means that x equals negative 1, which means that all of this is equal to negative 1. Okay, so that's how I would do that. If you wanted to, like I said, you could change this to a y equals negative x plus 2. You could switch the x and the y, solve for y, then you could plug 3 into that new equation. But to me, that's doing a little bit too much. All right, what is the domain and range of g of f of x and f of g of x? Well, this is kind of hard to do if I don't have my equations. So first thing I would do is figure out what is g of f of x. Now, we already found that up here, so I can kind of skip that step on this one. So this is negative x plus 2. Now, we kind of talked about the square root function on the last page. So what is the domain of this function? So the domain you should be able to do without a calculator, I would think. Remember, what is my red flag? When I have a square root function, my red flag is I don't want to have any negatives under the radical. So my domain would be the set of all x values contained in, not a parentheses, contained in 0, 0 is good, all the way up into infinity. Okay, I have nothing to worry about unless this is a negative number under the radical. As long as it's 0 or positive, I'm good to go. Now, the range gets a little trickier here because we have the negative underneath the radical. So what I like to do is plug in some numbers and just kind of see a trend. So if I plug in 0, because that's the lowest value I can plug in, I get 0 plus 2 is 2. All right, if I plug in 1, square root of 1 is 1, so I have negative 1 plus 2 is 1. So I've first got a 2 and then a 1. What happens if I plug in like 4? If I plug in 4, square root of 4 is 2, negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Well, it looks like all these values are getting smaller, which makes sense because I have this negative out here. Let's plug in one more. Let's plug in 9. Square root of 9 is 3, so negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. So they're all getting smaller. So when I plugged in 0, I got 2. When I plugged in 0, I got 2. But now they're all getting smaller. And they're going to keep getting smaller. So my range would be negative infinity all the way up until 2. And 2 is included because I was able to get that as an output. Now, if you're still struggling with that, remember, grab calculator. We could throw this into our calculator. So negative x plus 2 was the equation, and then we can see that on the graph. So 2 is a value that exists, and then it's going down for forever. So my range would be negative infinity all the way up until 2, because remember, we start with our lowest value when we talk about domain and range. All right, and then f of g of x. Well, like I said, it's really hard to do this without an equation. So let's go ahead and find an equation. So I'm going to take g of x, plug it into f. So this equation is going to be the square root of negative x plus 2. All right, so let's see if we can do domain without a calculator here. See if we can reason our way through this. All right, so domain. So I need to make sure I don't end up with negative values under the square root. So let's just make a quick table and just plug in just a couple values and just see if we can find some sort of trend. Sorry, negative x plus 2, that looks a little sloppy. All right, so let's start by plugging in, I don't know, let's start by plugging in like a negative 3. So if I plug in negative 3, I'm going to get negative 3, which is positive. So I get positive 3 plus 2, so I'm going to get the square root of 5. So that's good. That's a real number. No negatives under the radical, so I'm good. All right, let's plug in, I don't know, negative 1. So if I plug in negative 1, negative 1 is 1, plus 2 is 3. So square root of 3, so that's good again. Let's plug in 0. If I plug in 0, negative 0, 0, plus 2. All right, I'm good so far. All right, so where do I get into trouble here? Because so far I look okay. If I plug in 1, we'll just keep on going here. So negative 1 plus 2 is 1, square root of 1, which is just 1. So that's good. Let's plug in 2. Negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Square root of 0, that's still 0. I'm still happy with that. Let's plug in 3. So negative 3 plus 2 is negative 1. Square root of negative 1. Uh-oh. That makes me nervous. Okay? So think about what we just found out here. I can plug in all the negative numbers. Those look good. I can plug in 0. I can plug in 1. I can even plug in 2. But anything bigger than 2 is going to give me a negative under a radical. So our domain is 2 or smaller. So how am I going to write that? So my domain is 2 or smaller. So negative infinity all the way to 2, and 2 is good. If I plug in 2, I get 0, and that's a real value. So I feel good about that. All right, now range, if you think about it for a second, I think you should be able to figure out range. Because think about square roots. What do you know about square roots? Can you plug numbers in to a square root function and expect to get a negative number back out? No. How would you get a negative number back out of a square root? There's nothing you can plug in so that the output is negative. And we can see that on our table. We are able to get 0, and we are able to get positive numbers, but no negative values here. So my output, technically if I was going to write this, I'd say f of g of x, this output value, is contained in, and what is my interval? So my interval, we said there's no negative values. I was able to come up with 0, and I was able to come up with positive numbers, but no negative numbers can be the output of a square root function. So it'd be 0 to infinity. Okay? Again, for now, if we want to graph this, let's see what happens. So if I throw this in a calculator, so the square root of negative x plus 2, graph it. Uh-oh. Syntax error. Let's see, what did I mess up? Oh, okay. So it yelled at me because I used a minus sign instead of a negative sign. Whoopsies. All right, so there's my graph. So let's check our domain and range. So what did our domain to me looks like negative infinity all the way to 2, which is what we said. And my range looks like 0 right here all the way to infinity. So even though it's going to the left, it's still going up. So it's still going to have very big and positive output values. So 0 all the way to infinity for my range. Okay, great. Let's see. Last one on this video, and then we'll pause and make video 3. So it says let f of x equal x plus 5, g of x equals the square root of x. What is the domain and range of g of f of x? All right, so let's start by figuring out the equation. So I'm going to take f of x and plug it into g. So my new equation is going to be the square root of x plus 5. All right, so I need the domain and the range. So this is pretty similar to what we just did. So let's see if we can come up with some ideas here. So I need to make sure I don't have any negatives under my radical. So let's see, maybe make a table if you need a second. But it looks to me if I plug in negative 5, I'm going to get 0. That's good. If I plug in negative 6, I'm going to get negative under radical. That's no good. If I plug in like positive 4, I'm good. Positive 3, I'm good. 0, I'm good. Negative 1, I'm okay. Negative 2, I'm okay. Negative 3, I'm okay. Negative 4, I'm still okay. Negative 5, I get 0, that's still okay. But negative 6, that's no good. So what did we just find out? Looks like negative 5 is the smallest number I can plug in, and then I can plug in anything bigger than that, and I'm still okay underneath the radical. Anything smaller than negative 5, I'm going to get a negative under the square root, which is no good. All right, and then what about my output? What are my possible output values? Well, we just talked about this. If I have a square root function, I can have 0 as an output, and I can have positive numbers as an output, but I'm not going to be able to have any negative numbers. So my output is, my possible values are 0 to infinity. Okay, again, if you're struggling with that, what could you do? You could grab a calculator, graph this, and then see if that can help you out. All right, so there's part 2. Part 3 coming up shortly.